I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like.
You're watching Poindexter Lounge. You already know. You're watching Poindexter Lounge for the unity.
Why don't you set aside an hour or two? We'll have a few drinks and a cup of coffee. I don't drink.
Hi, you're watching Poindexter Lounge. I'm choking on chicken.
Hey, you're watching Poindexter. That's great. I don't.
You are watching Poindexter Lounge.
That's great. I don't.
You are watching Poindexter. Thanks for the lights, Jay. Churros and Call of Duty. I smell like onions and you're watching Poindexter.
That's great. I don't.
And now I'll make the point better. This joint's clever. In the lounge with Poindexter. So Poindexter Lounge, you know that we can get it in. And now I'm headed up like I'm Led Zeppelin.
Hi, you're watching Poindexter Lounge. Do you like nerd stuff? Yeah? Then you'll love this. You never know what might happen or who might show up at the lounge.
I just want to thank you for being here and being my friend. It's always good to have someone you could count on. And I'm glad you're that for me.
That's great. I don't.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Cannonball!
Give me a bottle of anything and a glazed donut. To go.
It's the looped intro that just won't stop. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's like twice the goodness. Welcome to the Poindexter Lounge. My name is Dinash, and it's great to have you with me on the drive home. Today, we got some stuff to talk about, but welcome. It's always good to have you guys, and like I always say, if this is your first time to the lounge, just know that the Poindexter Lounge is a place for nerds. It's a place where you and I and all of us can get together and talk about the things that we love. Things like TV shows, movies, games, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books, superheroes, toys, and so much more. And if those are things that get you excited, then hey, you found the right place. And we're all here. So why don't you just kick back, crack open a Dr. Pepper or, beverage of your choice. I've got a coffee here too. It's the end of my day. I'm trying to enjoy it with a coffee. Whatever beverage you like, do that. Sit back, participate of these topics. And who knows, we may just highlight. What's up, Elsa? Good to see you. Elsa is here first thing today, and so it's good to see you. So I think we're just going to jump right in. We got a couple of our good friends in the back. Of course, we've got Austin. What's up, Austin?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Are you there? Are you there, Austin?
Hello.
Are you there, Austin? It's me, Enosh. And then we have Nerd Cosa Nostra. What's going on, guys?
How you guys doing? So I can hear Austin.
Doing well.
If you're not able to, I can hear him.
Oh, can you
I
hear
could
me
hear
now?
him. He
How
was
about
just
this?
he was just really low. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah,
Okay.
now I can hear
Okay.
you.
Good.
Yeah, I was having all kinds of weird stuff yesterday with that, like that it kept going out, like I couldn't hear anybody. But now I got the headset in, so I think it's because of the Bluetooth in my car. It keeps trying to pick up, and it like just kind of goes somewhere into the ether, and I don't hear certain things anymore. So it's weird. But what's up with you guys? What's going on? What's going on with you, Nerd Coast and Usher? How's your day going?
Just another day. Glad to be here. Glad to be above ground and breathing.
Heck yeah. Heck
You
yeah.
know,
And how about you, Austin?
Can't complain about anything else, right? So
I'm alive.
And Austin's alive too, so we're all alive.
We're all alive.
I think I've caught a cold or something, so I took today off. I've been chilling and sleeping and drinking tea, and so yeah. Hopefully, doesn't get any worse than this. But
Right. It reminded me of that old Sesame Street. Remember when Sesame Street like would do like these rock songs, and like,
oh yeah.
right? They had one that was about what it means to be alive, and so they had like the rock bands like, "'Cause you're alive, you're alive, you eat and breathe and grow, and that is how you know that you're alive."
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore.
They do not. They do not. Nowadays, Elmo would probably just go,
La 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 la. Elmo's alive. Elmo's alive, and Austin's alive, and Nerd Cosa Nostra's alive, and Angie in the chat is alive, and I'm pretty sure Ruthie's alive. Elsa, well, she doesn't like The Last Jedi, so she might not be alive. I don't know. She might not have a pulse, because how could you have a pulse and be alive and not love that movie? La 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 la. Elmo's World.
And then Larry David comes up and punches you in the face. No,
right.
And that right there, everyone, was the Enosh remix.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You know, I tried to have that video clip ready of me getting in that argument with that dude yesterday in the car, and it was the wrong file type. So StreamYard wouldn't let me import it, so I got to just change the file type, but I didn't have time to do it, obviously, on my phone. But I was like,
that's gonna be a classic clip right there.
oh my gosh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. It was so funny because that dude, like. We're already. I was on the expressway when it happened, and like I'm on the expressway going home, and right now there's a bunch of construction, so they've got like what would normally be our side is completely shut off. So I'm over on the left side. I'm over on the other side, incoming traffic, and so they've got a pillar here or whatever, and there was a cop way up here, and he was in the right lane and I was in the left lane, and we're stopped. We're not going anywhere. And all of a sudden, he's just coming into my lane, like coming towards the front fender of my car. And he's not stopping. And I'm watching this, and I'm not able to go anywhere, and he's not able to go anywhere, and he's just coming left. He's not going forward. It's not like he was trying to even go around me. And that's why I was just like, what are you doing? Like, I was just looking at him like, what are you doing? And he's like, F you, I'm trying to get in your lane. I'm like, this is my lane. Like, right. I'm sitting here. Like, if you wanted to go around me, you could wave at me. Like, I'm pretty chill with that. But my gosh, that was hilarious.
Put your fat ass in front of me and just like.
Right. Like, you don't get to like smash into the side of my car. And that was the funny thing was like once he backed off, he got behind me and I could see the front of his car and the whole right-hand side of his car was crashed in. And it was like a work van or something like that, but it was like the whole front fender looked like it was going to fall off, and I was like, well, no wonder, because he's probably already tried that from the other side once. So. My goodness, yeah, what a thing to happen live.
Yeah. Nowadays, you never. I mean, nowadays you never know crazy driver. And what's crazy is, especially where I'm at, since I live like right in the middle of the city. I mean, with all the traffic lights. So many people are in a rush to get around you, but we all racing to get to the same red light because we're all going to stop here within like 200 feet. So you do you, boo. You rush to that red light.
Right. Yep. Just so I can sit right next to you and listen.
Yeah.
You, I would wait.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, nowadays I was like, I don't even care. You want to act like that? Go ahead, pass me. But I mean, I see what your point. I mean, what are you going to do when you got someone literally getting ready to drive right into you, right?
Right. Like that's why, and he was looking at me. That was the crazy. He was literally like right there, and he's looking at me, and he just kept coming. He wasn't stopping, and that's why finally I was like, I started yelling at him, and it was funny because I watched it back, and like I feel like I was like so polite, like even doing that because I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like I just kept saying that. What are you doing? I was trying to understand what the heck he was thinking by what he was doing because he didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
And
this
so
is why
I
you're
was like, what are you doing?
Because the rest of us,
yes,
at least me would have started out a little differently.
Yes, I once posted on Facebook that it's like, you know what? I don't usually swear a lot, but sometimes sitting in traffic, I definitely understand it. I understand the use of.
And depending on your city, it's I mean, it could be a million times worse too. I mean, I know some cities the drivers are just a lot worse than others.
I have so much anxiety driving here. It is the absolute worst.
Really?
Oh,
really? That's interesting that you have a problem driving in Vegas because I actually don't mind driving in Vegas. It's Detroit that I can't do. Like, well, I mean, I do it obviously because I'm here, but it's like Detroit is so bad. Like, we have 2 seasons: construction and winter, and they try to blur those lines even because, like, as soon as the weather breaks, everything's under construction, everything, and it's like, how can you have that much construction every year on the same parts of the road, on the same highways? Like Michigan is horrible for our roads.
Yeah.
Our roads are awful.
Under construction too, so I kind of feel that. Like we're always, and especially lately, and with everybody moving from California, we got California drivers now here. So
well, you know it's something when I went to LA in 2019, and I remember driving around LA thinking, well, this ain't nothing. I dig this, and like you come back to Michigan and I'm ready to kill somebody. You can ask Dawson, Nerd Costa Nostra.
Yeah.
You can ask Dawson about the day that I had to get him back to the airport.
Yeah, because didn't you guys went to that Superman event thing, right?
Well, we did that, but so he's been here a few times actually.
Okay.
Dawson has. Yeah, Dawson was here last year, right around this time actually. Couple of weeks just before things kicked off for our year, and and so he was actually here, and and so anyways, Dawson the next day. Dang, speaking of potholes, geez, there's like a pothole you could fit a wampa in. Anyways, I had to take him to the airport the next day, and it was crazy because I went the way that I normally go, and it was like there was so much traffic. We just got stuck, and you can ask Dawson. Like, I was gunning it. I have never driven like that before, ever. But I was like going down little side streets because like he had to get there. I got him to the airport in Detroit 15 minutes before his plane took off.
Wow!
And he was
his flight.
I know, but that was it. We left in plenty of time, and he'll tell you that we left in plenty of time to get there, and get him on and everything. And we just got stuck in the worst traffic ever. And yeah, man, I was getting creative and quite aggressive to get my friend to the airport on time, and we got him there just in time. I was just glad that he got out of there, because yeah, man, 15 minutes to spare. You don't usually get to board that soon. So. But yeah, so we got some stories. There's not a lot of stuff going on today, but yeah, there are some things, and I guess we should probably lead with the big one, right? I mean, especially in the it's very interesting that this week. I don't know. Have either of you guys watched the Max special about Nickelodeon?
Yeah.
I have it in my queue. I haven't, but feel free to talk about it though. You won't spoil anything for me.
Okay. Yeah. So I watched that this weekend, and man, heavy topic of discussion, heavy amount of things that happened, and it's scary because, gosh, man, my kids were all into those shows. I mean, like, we watched iCarly religiously. When they redid iCarly, like Landon and Isaac got together and they were like, Dad, we need to have what's it on? It's on Paramount. They're like, we got to get Paramount, and I'm like, why? And they're like, because iCarly's going to be on Paramount, Dad. We got to watch iCarly. And this, two grown boys, you know what I mean? Like, they were almost grown men when iCarly first came back out, and they were just like, no, we'll pay for it, Dad. We'll pay to get Paramount just so that we can watch the new iCarly. So there's that. I mean, Josh and Drake, obviously, and all those shows. My gosh, man, Victorious. The kids watch Victorious all the time, and to know that there was stuff like that going on behind, especially the stuff that happened to Drake, man. And God only knows what else has happened with other kids. But
is this the one called Quiet on the Set? Is that the one we're talking about? Oh, okay. Yeah. I've heard some things about it, but yeah, I have it in my queue to watch. But I just want to make sure we were talking about the same show.
Yeah. Austin, were you surprised? I mean, like, there had always been whispers and talks about stuff, and about him specifically, Drake. But, like, were you surprised at how involved that was?
I don't want to say I was really surprised. I think I was surprised it was Drake. That's who I was surprised that it was Drake Bell. That happened to, right? But I mean, honestly, you can look at a lot of these, child celebrities that grew up, and you can kind of see, it wasn't all glam and fun. And Miley Cyrus is a great example. Britney Spears, all these, that were involved in as far as being child entertainers. It's not shocking to me, but it is very sad. Like you said, it's incredibly sad because at the end of the day, these are kids. They should be protected. They should be watched over. In my opinion, the parents should have been way more involved as well.
Right.
If it were my kid, that kid's not going to be on a set if I'm not there. He's not going to be,
I want to speak to that. Can I speak to that a little bit? Because, I was thinking about that last night, actually. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was thinking about that, right? And I was thinking about how, like, some of the parents on there, I think we all would like to think that, yeah, man, we'd be the hovering parent. We'd be the one that'd be, like, on top of the kids and making sure and stuff. And I think that for a lot of people, I mean, especially now that all this stuff has come out, right? Like, people are looking for it, whatever. But I think that it's easy as much as I would say, like, well, I would always be there with my kids, right? Like, I wouldn't, be letting my kids go off alone with, these strangers. Yeah. The weird thing about it is those lines start to get blurred because after a while, now they're your coworkers. Now they're the people that you've been working with for a couple of years. You know them. You hang out. You go to the parties at their house. You do this. Now it becomes uncle this and aunt that, and you know what I mean. And like those lines get blurred, and just like abuse happens in real life when people who are given, access to people, and then they take advantage of that, and they do horrible things. It's the same thing there. It's just in a situation like that, my gosh, man, when they showed all of the allegations and all of the things that were against the dude, I was like, I mean, like, yeah, I'm with you. Like, it's not that I was surprised that something happened, but it was just like, my God, like,
it's still incredibly sad. It's still
so incredibly sad, and I can't imagine being the parent of. I can't imagine being Drake's parent. His dad, when he showed his heart, his heart broken, because he thought that he had protected his son enough. He thought that he had done enough, but he could only do so much. And the mom wasn't as protective, and so it's like, man, I just can't imagine something like that happening to a family member and then feeling the guilt of having not protected your child.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild, that whole situation. I mean, what's sad is it's not a black and white situation either. There's so many people involved. As far as Dan Snyder, look, I think as far as we don't know if anything's gonna come out or anything, but I think it's pretty safe to say, yeah, the guy's a little creepy. He's definitely creepy. And whether he did anything or not, he fostered the environment that all of these people were hired in, that all of these people worked in. I kind of, was talking to Bradley about it yesterday. I said it's kind of like the Ellen DeGeneres thing, right? Maybe they're not the ones treating people bad or doing things or that type of thing, but they are the ones that are hiring the people. They're the person in charge. So no matter what, it falls back on them. And so, it's that, and then on top of it too, I got to be honest, right? Like I've followed Drake Bell for years and years, and he's had his issues as well as far as talking to some underage girls and things like that too, and got taken to court, and so it's a very but it shows it's a cycle. Things happen that it changes somebody, and then it's a cycle. It goes.
Elsa, you are so right. When that story came out that Drake's girlfriend's mom was the one who was like, no, something's not right.
Right.
Like kudos to that girl's mom for not worrying about, is because that's the problem, right? And they even mentioned that in the show. And this isn't all about the show because we got another topic, but like it's interesting because they even mention in the show about how these kids they get these roles, they get these things, and they're hoping to, I mean, they're some of them are trying to save their families, right? They're literally trying to get their families out of poverty, or they're, or they become the breadwinner. They become the industry of the family, right? Because they're the ones making the money. So the parents end up, a lot of times working, for the kids' trust or whatever, and that's when people get messed up with, stealing money and everything else. But, but they talked about how it puts these kids and these parents in these really bad situations because the kids don't want to get in trouble. The kids don't want to, cause waves. And so it makes them very vulnerable targets to these horrible people. And then the parents, a lot of times, it's like they're caught like deer in headlights. They everything is going on around them, but they're not paying attention for whatever reason. So it's sad. It really is sad. But I say that because, now we got this deal with Diddy.
So real quick, before you get into the Diddy thing,
yes.
Because as you guys are talking, I've just been reading about what the show is, the episodes.
Yeah.
And some of the scenes that they're talking about in these episodes, especially like with Jamie Lynn Spears, there was a scene around with her, a scene specifically with her. I'm reading about the whole thing with Drake Bell, but I'm gonna say so. All that to say is, I could have swore there was an actor by one of the Coreys that warned us about all this years ago. And we're talking about both the Corey. I mean, one of them, Corey Haim, has passed, but Corey Feldman, I mean, he came out years ago about this, and this was stuff happening even in the 80s when they were child actors.
Right.
And my thing is this is one of those prime examples, which I think is going to lead us into the whole Diddy conversation. Is you got these Hollywood elites that continue to cover it up, and because they have the ability to cover up, they have the money and power to cover it up. And because if we notice when Corey Feldman came out about this, he was getting a lot of slack for trying to shine the light on this type of abuse that happens.
The only thing about Corey Feldman, because I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I actually had that same conversation with somebody yesterday about Corey Feldman. And, he's been talking about for years, like you said, that like he knows the people who are responsible. He knows people who've done these things, that he has the proof, he's got the evidence and stuff, but he was like trying to raise, I can't remember how many $1 million it was because he wanted help with attorney fees and stuff like that. And to that, I just say, put the stuff out there. People will come and support you if you are putting stuff out there that's real, that's based on something that is listen, I'll support it, man. Put out a GoFundMe for God's sake and get the thing going. My only problem with Corey Feldman is he's been sitting on this thing for decades, and how many people are getting abused? Who are these people that did this to him or that he knows of? to me, that's just as bad. If you're sitting on that stuff and you're acting like you're going to wait, what's he waiting for at this point?
And that's the point I'm getting to as well.
Oh, okay.
If you got, but that's exactly it, right? If you got all these receipts, put it out there.
Right.
But the only thing I can think of is why he wouldn't put it out there is because he probably doesn't want to get deleted. And I say deleted as in, deleted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, you think about, how many times, whether it's whistleblowers or things like, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but there's been a lot of questionable things where things come out and people do post those receipts, post that evidence, and then all of a sudden, people who were never known to do something like that, all of a sudden now have done that to themselves. Which then raises even more questions. And then the cycle continues, right? Because those things eventually just fall down to the footnote of the website or the newspaper, and it's never heard about again until something like this comes up where you have these documentaries where it starts to expose it again. And it's like, well, wait a minute, didn't we hear about this like 3 or 4 years ago and still nothing has been done about it?
Right. And so, no, I mean, that's absolutely right. And so, but too, I mean, like with the way Corey Feldman has been so vocal about it, it's weird, right? Because like, I guess if he outed some names, like I would almost think that it would give him, it would garner him more protection, like outing those names and then being protected than to keep threatening. Unless they just see him as not being a threat because he just keeps threatening.
But that's also too, I think, like, look, with what Corey went through as a child, I think it's probably safe to say there's some trauma, there's some mental health issues and stuff.
Sure.
And that is the reason, right? Is when you have a mixture of him telling the truth and then probably his mental health exaggerated. It's kind of like Kanye West. Kanye West talks about Diddy and all these other people and blah blah blah, but he's also going out there and saying insane things too, that are just and so it makes it harder for people to receive that when it's like, okay, well, what's the truth and what's your mental health situation?
Right. Well, yeah, and with that situation, too, it's like he's got his own weird stuff going on, man. Like Corey Feldman has got some weird stuff going on when it comes to the girls that he has and all that stuff, man. Like there's obviously been some things that have taken a toll on him, like you said, his own mental capacities and everything. So yeah,
but all that would not matter one bit if you got clear evidence, tangible evidence. It doesn't matter what your mental state is, how you're living your life. If you have tangible evidence to show these things were happening, these laws were being broken, these children were being abused, all that in my mind, all that goes out the window, because here's clear evidence that it was happening. And I'm sure that's both what you're saying as well. But yeah, but with Corey though, I'm not going to make excuses for his behavior, but we see a lot with these child actors. They get into drugs at that age, 9, 10 years old, drinking. And then that takes you have very few who have ever really made it out of that hole. I mean, I think one example would be like Drew Barrymore. I mean, she's been very open about how she was when a young child, how she got into drugs, alcohol, things like that very early. And I think, again, she's one of those rare instances where she's completely was able to get out of it, grow from it. And it really didn't impact her, I guess, like where she's at now. If you were to compare her to how like Corey acts today. Right. So,
they're
but I see your point, but Austin, I totally agree with you. I see your point, because it comes down to believability, right? You have someone who's claiming these things.
Like I do believe absolutely a lot of the things, but like I'm just coming at it from like a general audience.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I believe a lot of things, but like I said, it does make it harder for somebody who's just a random on Twitter to see that and then go, okay,
yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Did we lose?
Maybe he's talking to his girl.
Yeah, he's so I know we were getting ready to move into the whole Diddy topic.
So what do you think about that?
Even with Diddy, I'm not surprised to hear this, There's been rumors. I mean, again, we're getting to rumors that we just talked about like that, but it's not so much rumors just coming from random people. I mean, there's like videos. I mean, I know one of the videos that's starting to circulate again is the short video with him and Justin Bieber when he was 15. When he was with Usher, I mean, even Usher has come out and been like, yeah, this is things I saw at Diddy's place, and which I was surprised he actually came out and
well, and you could tell he was being very. Are you talking about the Howard Stern?
Yes, the Howard Stern interview.
You could tell Usher was trying to be very careful about because Howard was pushing, and both Howard and Robin were kind of like, "Well, what did you see?" He's like, "Just wild shit, man. It's just wild."
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, yeah. I mean, well, that was why I put that on there because. Yeah, he just goes on and says, yeah, I seen some wild stuff. He's like, I don't even know if I understand it all or whatever, something like that. Like he's like, because Howard even starts to ask him if it was all sex stuff, if it was just like nonstop orgies, like what was it? And he's just like, it was stuff that like I saw going on, but like I don't even know if I could process it all, like like what was happening. That
he doesn't want to get deleted,
right?
To be honest,
right? Like that's. Man,
but again, I'm not. I mean, even I mean, when the raids happened, I mean, I think a lot of people who probably wouldn't have said anything are saying something. I mean, even if 50 Cent came out and was saying stuff. I mean, you can't tell me someone like 50 Cent didn't know about this or have heard about this through.
Something about Diddy for a minute though. He's been, I want to say, like for the last couple of years, he's been posting about and giving little hints.
No, I agree, but now he's like, gloves are off, right?
Right.
I mean, it's happening. So now why not just beat around the bush about it? I'm just going to come right out and say it. But I'm not surprised to hear this about Diddy just because of all the things that have been the old videos, the comment. I mean, everything that's happened over the years. I mean, I think now it's just either someone's hand was forced to say, hey, we got to take action. There's too much evidence. We're getting too much pressure to take action.
Yeah.
Or he was thrown to the wolves by higher ups from him and say, hey, you're going to be the sacrifice for the group, so to speak. Right. And hey, sorry, homie. It is what it is. You're gonna be say hey to R. Kelly when you get there.
Yeah. Whew. Man.
Yeah.
Maybe him and R. Kelly can start a band, a jailhouse band together. But I mean, if it comes out that if they come out and they got the evidence, prosecute them, send them away for life. Dude, I mean, there was so much with R. Kelly, there was so much evidence for decades, and no one did a thing. And finally, a prosecutor, an attorney, someone had the balls to actually take action, and he got what he deserved. In my opinion, he deserves to be in jail. And if everything's proven to be accurate with Diddy, hey, he deserves the same.
Absolutely,
deserves the same.
Absolutely. That's the thing. I think that enough of this stuff has surfaced over the last few years. People always had their suspicions. You know what I mean? Of like stuff in Hollywood. We always say, "Oh, Hollywood's weird and it's full of weirdos and everything else." But now with a lot of this stuff, coming to fruition and coming to light, and then you got the Epstein thing, which it's just ridiculous at this point, like how much they have gone out of their way to try to protect everybody who's obviously involved in that whole debacle. And now you got these things like the show on Max about Nickelodeon, and then like right away you got this stuff about P. Diddy, like supposedly bringing in van loads of underage girls. I mean, that's
I mean, now he's trying to spin it all. And I think like most people in his position, they're going to try to spin it. He's trying to make it sound like, he's being targeted. His 2 adult sons are now so traumatized because they had guns pointed at them. And when I heard that part, when he was claiming his sons are now just PTSDing, so to speak, I thought to myself, you've made a living, a career off the type of music that you do, where you promote certain levels of violence, whether through rap music or hip hop, and you had no problem making money off of it. But when there's where there appears to be a justifiable reason, because I don't think you get the FBI and Homeland Security raiding both your homes off a suspicion. Either they have something on you, and it's concrete enough for them to conduct a coordinated raid on both coasts of the U.S. on your two homes. And then it was curious. And all of a sudden, that he so happened to be a couple hours before the raids happened. He happened to leave. I mean, that could have been a coincidence. Could he have been tipped off? I mean, who knows? But he's definitely trying to make it seem like he's the true victim here, and I'm just not buying it.
Yeah.
But hey, everyone has their day in court.
Right.
You're innocent until you are proven guilty. I'm just saying the facts that we have seen. You don't see actions like this just because they have a suspicion you've done something wrong.
Right. I want to be totally fair before I get the group of people who come after me and go, "Oh, Enosh, you'll give Ezra Miller the benefit of the doubt, but not P. Diddy." I'm not saying I'm not giving anybody the benefit of the doubt. Like Nerd Cosa Nostra just said, the man will have his day in court, and we will, as things come to light, we may discuss them on the show. I'm sure others will discuss them as well. It's going to be out there, but there is there's a difference. There's a difference in scope and history as to what this is, and but at the end of the day, we'll just have to wait and see as evidence comes out and find out exactly what they're looking for. But like Nerd Cosa Nostra just said, it was pretty involved. Like it was very involved. They don't just wake up on a Monday and go, "Oh, we're just going to go check out Diddy's house today." That's
like Nerd Cosa Nostra said too. I mean, look, Homeboy was gone pretty quick, and he's still not being, he still hasn't turned himself in or like nothing. He's, so usually too, that's not a very good sign. It looks like you're trying to get away. Not to mention they caught one of his planes was headed to Cape Verde. It stopped for fuel, but it was headed to Cape Verde. Now, originally people thought Diddy was on it because Cape Verde does not have an extradition deal with
extradition treaty.
Yeah. So Diddy was not on the plane. So then people thought, okay, maybe he put the evidence on the plane, sent it to Cape Verde, and that the U.S. can't touch it there.
Yeah, and supposedly they arrested they're calling the guy his drug mule.
Yeah, which was a university basketball player.
And he was there at the arrest. Diddy was there while they were arresting him too. So, because I think it was just off the plane. So,
jeez.
Yeah. On Ridley Scott, his neighbors standing.
Yeah, it's really messed up, and like I said, Usher, talking about he saw stuff, man. He was there, he lived there. Angie brought up the fact that he lived there as a kid. He was there with with Diddy and was subjected to these things. And I tell you what, what's scary is it sounds like we have generational abuse that's been going on rampant for decades. And, people got to stop being worried about offending somebody to speak up. Because even in the documentary, it talked about how people wanted to talk, wanted to say something about what was the guy's name who went to jail? I can't remember it right now. No, the guy in the Nickelodeon thing.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Brian Peck.
Thank you. I couldn't hear you. Yeah. So Brian Peck, I can't remember who was that said it, but they wanted to come out about something. They said something actually, and somebody just went, "Oh, that's because Brian's gay, and so he's just fun and friendly with the kids and over the top and everything." And so here's the thing: gay or straight or anything in between, you still got to keep an eye on your kids. I'm not saying nobody's saying that it's not making a statement that you think like people who are gay are all necessarily, you know, pedophiles or something, because that's not true. But this idea that like, oh, well, it's okay because that's just how they are. And like that's supposed to bring down your defenses for the whole thing. And nobody wants to say anything because, and they even talked about they didn't want to be canceled. They didn't want people to look bad at them because they were saying something about a gay man in that situation. Look, I don't care if you're gay, straight, or whatever. You do that to kids, you deserve what you get coming, and you absolutely should be outed. You should absolutely be punished to the fullest extent of the law. You don't do that to kids.
And
I'm
think about it
sorry.
this way: even your worst murderers that are in prison for life, whether they're serial killers, you know, whatever, even they know that's not the, you don't cross that line. So when you hear about these stories of people who have either abused kids, like the whole like the recent whole like Ruby, I don't know if you guys she was a YouTuber, Ruby, I can't remember her last name. Her first name's Ruby, and she had a YouTube channel that she was doing with her family, and she was arrested last month, her and one of her associates, because they were one of the children escaped the house, and he had duct tape and stuff around his ankle, and he was like being starved, and they found one of the other siblings in the house. It took them 2 hours to talk this child out of this closet because she just wasn't responding. Actually, it was more than 2 months ago, but I mean, this all happened very quick, and they both got sentenced to like 30 years. But they were talking about like, okay, now they've recently been sentenced. They've been moved from jail to prison, and they were talking about on this law channel on YouTube, like, hey, what do you think their lives now are going to be like moving from a jail to a prison? And the commentator was like, it's a vastly different world.
Yeah.
When you go to a prison, those inmates know exactly are going to probably know exactly who you are, especially since it's a high profile case, what you've done, and they do not tolerate with child abusers in any way, shape, or form. So they're going to have they said they're automatically going to have a target on their back and can already expect maybe to even have violence towards them, because they just know you don't harm children. And that's just a known thing.
Right.
So when things like this come up, and again, if it's proven to be all accurate and true, you deserve to be in prison the rest of your life. But there's times though, I mean, anyone that follows me will see me post on stories like this. Hey, sometimes the apartment comes out and say, hey, they deserve some Old Testament justice.
Right.
I'm all for, in that case, it's an eye for an eye. If you can do that to a 7-8-year-old and have no qualms about it, and in this case with this Nickelodeon situation, and you can like, oh, no big deal, and they're abusing these children. No, that's where the Old Testament needs to come back into play here.
Well, and what about all those people, you know, and all it's all those people that wrote letters for Peck. That blows me away, because like now they're all like, a lot of them are like backtrack and go, oh, we didn't know, we didn't have all the information, we had no idea. Why are you writing a letter for somebody that you don't know what they're even accused of and the level of like what they're involved in? Look, I've written letters for people before to a judge, okay? Character letters, you know, of people that I know, whatever. But you can never stand in a place like I've never written a letter when it comes to like somebody's guilt or innocence or anything like that. I've written a letter for a mother who was in a custody battle, because it was somebody who I worked alongside of at the church and knew her and saw how she conducted herself with her kids and everything else. And so she asked me to write a letter, and I did. And I wrote a letter about what I knew. But these people writing letters out here about like, oh, whatever he did, I'm sure it was a momentary lapse of judgment or whatever. And you know, like, you know, I know, like one person went on about how like he has suffered enough from the pain of going through this and making this mistake.
Well, didn't you? I mean, I think you and Austin.
What?
I think you and Austin talked about this. I think we lost Austin, but I think you two talked about this on a show like a week or so ago. Same thing with Danny Masterson. How many people, even the cast members, that wrote letters for him, and then once they found out that the judge then denied that those letters would remain private and then they would be public, they were all like, "Oh, well, I didn't know it was going to be public. Otherwise, I wouldn't have wrote the letter." You know,
yeah, you got the balls to defend somebody like that, but you don't have the guts to let the world know that you support that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
I agree. For the people that like were saying like what you said, it's just like they were actually talking on the incident, being, oh, he's been through enough. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I do understand, like you said, and we did talk about, you never know somebody. I had a youth pastor once that I thought was the best and all that, and then come to find out he was, touching girls at the school he worked at and all that. And like you really, like, people put on such a great facade, like, and for the most part, I think besides those people, like you said, that they're actually talking on the incident, I don't think they should have. They probably, it's not their, those character letters are, like you said, they're speaking on the person that not on the incident, on on their character as you've seen and all that. I mean, I would hope that not all of them knew, and then we can give some of them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I think the ones like you said that were like, oh, he's been through enough and all that. Yeah, that's utterly ridiculous, because you're accepting the things
This really saddened me. This made me very sad when Drake said that as he sat there, the side Peck's side of the courtroom was filled, and he said with names. He said that you'd be shocked that the people were supporting, and it's like, and if they're in the courtroom, how do you not know what the man is accused of? That doesn't make any sense. Like, you're in the courtroom supporting, you're going to hear the allegations, you're going to hear the charges, you're going to hear, the discourse that goes on. And to know, though, that it was him and I don't even think his dad was there and his brother. I think he just said it was like him and his mom. And was it his brother, or does he have a sister? I think he has a sister. And I think he said it was just him, his mom, and his sister or something. Because his dad at that point, wasn't like around because of the mom and stuff. So it's a sad thing, and we'll keep an eye on this Diddy thing, and as things, I would just say with stuff like this, obviously, we got to get all the information. I don't want to run with
Absolutely.
Too much. But it's a sad thing, because we know that this stuff is going on, especially on the heels of this show, just coming out. It really hits hard. And so protect your kids, keep your kids safe, guys, no matter what you're doing. Don't take things for granted, because you just never know, so, but a couple other little things, and then, because we're going to cut it a little short today, about that hour mark, because I got a young lady waiting for me. But did you guys see the trailer for Good Times?
I didn't see the trailer. I did read about what the premise of the show, and when I read the premise of the show, well, one, I when I saw that the article title, I was like, really, this is happening,
right?
And then when I read the premise of the show, I was like, yeah, keep scrolling, turn the dial. I'm not interested.
Oh, tell us what the premise of the show is, please.
Okay, so I'm gonna read directly from the article. So this isn't Cosa Nostra being like my opinion. I'm reading right from it. I'm happy to share the link.
Like, actually, Netflix is like, this thing sucks. It's gonna be the worst thing.
And let me start off with this. I'm okay with like raunchy comedy, R-rated stuff. I don't have a problem with that. Okay, I'm not easily offended, so that type of stuff doesn't bother me. But again, I'm just gonna read what it says. The raunchy R-rated trailer reveals a new look at the Evans family through the eyes of executive producer Seth MacFarlane and showrunner Rhonda Shepherd. The series features voices and just lists off the actors and actresses who are doing the voices. Here's the official log line per Netflix. Quote, an animated reboot of the Norman Lear series finds the latest generation of the Evans family, cab driver Reggie and his wife, the ever aspirational Beverly, scratching and surviving one of the last remaining housing projects in Chicago, along with their teenage artist son, Junior, activist daughter Gray, and drug-dealing infant son Dalvin. It turns out that it turns out the more things change, the more they stay the same, and keeping your head above water in a system with its knee on your neck is as changing as ever. The only thing tougher than life is love, but in this family, there's more than enough to go around. And it goes on to just talk about it's going to be 10 episodes that will kick off April 12th. So I think it's about the 27th. So what? Couple weeks it's gonna kick off. It doesn't say whether or not they're going to drop all 10 or if it will be like a weekly drop of an episode. And then it just mentions that the Lear is still going to get a credit. His production company is still getting a credit because since they're no longer with us as an executive producer for this animation. But so that description of the show, knowing about the original show, nah, I'm not interested.
Honestly, the trailer, like, okay, so I'll be honest with you, I did not realize that Seth MacFarlane was involved. I didn't pay attention to the credits of who was involved because I just literally watched it on the fly. It makes sense though because it kind of felt like a African American version of Family Guy. I mean, you got a baby who talks and is apparently a drug dealer. Didn't realize that, but yeah, he talks in the thing. He's talking about like how he's a baby. And now I'll say this though, there were some laughs in the trailer. It wasn't like hilarious, but it was a trailer for it. I have fond memories of Good Times. Keeping your head above water.
Yep.
Making a way when you can. Temporary layoffs. Good times.
Man, Enosh is dropping
credit ripoffs. Good
Enosh is dropping
times.
various remixes this show, everybody.
Ain't we lucky we got them? Good times. I know, I love Good Times, man. But because they're dynamite. But yeah, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Just what do we need more? It's a reboot. It's just a reboot, man. And like, I'll be honest with you, like watching the trailer, I thought that it might have been a sequel series.
Doesn't seem like it.
Well, it kind of is, right? Because they're following the newest generation of, or is this? I didn't see the trailer. Or are they
because they don't have the same names as the originals,
right? So it's the newest generation. So it's their kids or whatever, or their grandkids or something like that. Is my guess.
That's kind of the vibe that I got from it, but I wasn't sure.
That just makes me even less interested. I'm less interested now. Thank you, Austin, for that breaking news.
I'm just imagine in Florida. Just imagine in Florida. Just in. Damn. I loved Florida. That is a great Family Guy moment though, where it goes. They do a Good Times thing, and she does the whole damn thing, and then I can't remember what else she's like all upset about something, and they're all just kind of talk like everything bad happens, and I think they all die or whatever. Like they're just like everything is like horrible, and it's like, but there's no silver lining behind it whatsoever. They're just all in a horrible place. So
yeah, I mean, this just feels unnecessary. Look, and I love Seth MacFarlane. So and I'll be honest, this tells me like it's either going to be really pandering, or because Seth does do this, he flips the script and like he's going to take all those things like the infant drug dealer and kind of like it's going to be a joke on that culture that he's got like so. But I'll be honest, I don't see the reason. Like it's so already kind of different. Why call it Good Times? It's basically an R-rated Cleveland show. You might as well come up with a different name. I don't think Good Times needs to be associated with this whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think the Good Times has enough of a drawing power in 2024. So I don't know. Yeah, it seems like you could have named it something else and been fine. I don't know, but yeah, I'll check it out. I'll check it out just because I watched Good Times. But honestly, I'll be honest with you. The trailer, the first maybe quarter of the trailer, was entertaining, and then all of a sudden it just dropped off. And once it dropped off, it never got it back for me.
Right.
It never got it
I
back
mean,
for me. So.
they should leave that stuff alone, in my opinion. I'll be honest. The one thing I do like what Kimmel does, and what they do is they take, like, every year or every other year, they take an episode of Good Times or Happy Days or that type of thing, and they do a live. They pick one episode and they do a live reenactment with modern actors. Now that I think is fun. That's cool, and I like that you're honoring what was and letting new people kind of get to give it a try, and I think that's fine. But as far as rebooting these types of things completely, I'm not for it.
It's a slippery slope. I mean, at what point now are we gonna see a reboot of the Jeffersons?
Right,
Or
exactly.
you know what I'm saying? I mean, a lot of these things they're classics for a reason. Let them just be classics. Let them just be on their own. And just come up with something new and fresh.
Right. Every IP does not need to be realized for
another
the modern
generation.
day. Yeah. It just doesn't. It's one thing. It's one thing when you have something that like still harkens to generations now as it did, back then, and people are interested in it. But when you're just trying to force that, and you're just like, oh, you know what? Hey, Good Times is the property that we're not cashing in on, that we own. So why don't we just go ahead and make another black comedy and just call it Good Times, even though it's not really gonna be the same, but you're cashing in on the name of something.
Well,
hoping that brings in dollar signs.
One thing they attempted to reboot through a movie, which was a failure, and I hope we never see it through a TV show. I'll be out there with pitchforks. Is Get Smart. Please leave that show alone. You tried the movie, didn't work out, but please don't try to reboot it as a TV show. That was before my time, but it was definitely on reruns when I was growing up, and was one of my favorites. And when I see something like that and it gets rebooted and like this, Good Times, or they call it a reboot, remake, whatever, and they try to cash in on the nostalgia of the name, it's just like it's a big just disappointment and turn off to even want to get engaged with the content.
Yeah, no, I agree. So
anyway,
we will all see where that goes. But finally today, ladies and gentlemen, Austin has asked to have the floor.
Here we go.
And to share his concerns over Halo. So
it's the Austin remix.
It is the Austin remix. So Austin, we give you the floor to tell us all of your love and hate relationship with Halo.
It's mainly a hate relationship, but thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm going to take my own advice and crack open a Dr. Pepper.
There you go. You inspired me yesterday, with your beautiful rant on Snake Eyes and the G.I. Joe and all of that. And yeah, man, I just completely agree. And I feel like G.I. Joe is not the only thing. I think a lot of these things that they're adapting, video games, comics, whatever, we've just gone so far. Even the MCU today, Anthony Mackie came out and was like, well, there's very little creative things that you can do in the MCU because they just want to stick to the comics. And I'm like, that's bullshit. They're not thinking about the comics. They're doing their own thing. Like, at this point, I don't get why creators and showrunners and all these people just don't decide to, when you're starting a brand new universe, when you're trying to get people into your brand new IP, stick to the lore. Stick to what got people into it in the first place. This Halo show, and this really sucks because like I grew up, I don't have a lot of things that I like am really really personally attached to like this. I would say DC and Halo are my two like top, and Star Wars are probably the top three properties that were like so impactful to me as a kid, where I was just like, if people knew and got these stories the way that I did, it would, it can change your life. It's this whole thing, like, so them bringing in the Halo, or starting the Halo universe, initially I thought was, and I've always wanted them to adapt Halo because it's such an expansive world. It's all about hope for humanity. It's, war and politics, and but to be honest, it's a pretty simple story. It's the Master Chief he's a leader. He was a leader from birth. He was just that kid that when they kidnapped a bunch of kids to train them to be Spartans and experiment on them, he just took the lead. Everybody followed him, and he is known as Hope for Humanity and all these other things. And of course, this atrocity bastardized show that they called Halo decided to strip the Master Chief of all of that, take his suit away, make sure that he doesn't have a suit, so he's fighting without a suit half the season. They decided to make him now some chosen one, kind of like Star Wars or Dune, which was never a part of the lore. Basically, they have literally taken Halo and all these pieces of lore that people know and just shit on it. Killed some of the main characters within the second season, and apparently we're not even at the main story yet. So this is supposed to be a prequel, the before we know the Chief that we know. But again, like when you're introducing these characters and they've never been done, on screen, like whether it's Snake Eyes or Halo and all that, like I'm sorry, you don't have the right to show us a version of the character before the version of the character that we all know and love. You have to establish that character first, make the people who are fans of the IP happy first, and also do it in a way that's inviting to new people. And they've just completely done it all for the sake of God knows what. They just because they want to do something or because they don't want to copy. And I'm at the point of maybe copy, whether it's to be a comic or a video game, maybe copy the story to a certain extent, at least when you're starting, and then start to move away and start to build off of that. But a lot of these things and adaptations, specifically the Halo show, that want to do their own thing and come out of nowhere and completely also they literally say like the actors of the show, the showrunners, like, yeah, we're not gonna pay attention to the games. We're not gonna to the lore, we're not gonna where this is all like it doesn't make any sense. Why would you want me to watch it when you're telling me straight up we're not gonna pay attention to all of the stuff that you love about it? So
Yeah, you're telling me up front, right? That like you really don't care about the thing that I love, and that you're just going to make something in name only. So why would I be excited about that?
Exactly. So yeah, that was basically my little rant over Halo. It's just like I really wanted that show to be great, and they really bastardized that. I mean, the Chief in that show is completely unrecognizable from the Chief in the games. A lot of the characters they completely some big storylines even that go on for several different games they just destroyed at the end of the season for pretty much no reason. So yeah, that's my little thing. Stick to the lore. I don't care what it is at this point. Just stop trying to do your own thing just because you think it's going to be better than something that's already been successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a growing concern, I think, with a lot of properties, and it's just that like it's gotten to the point where like nobody seems to ever try to just stick to the source material at all.
Yeah.
Like when's the last time you saw a property that like they came out and they're like, you know what, we really respect the source material, we really respect, like, and not just say that.
Assassin's Creed was very, very close. If you ever saw the Assassin's Creed movie, if you haven't, I would highly recommend it. You don't even really need to play the games to watch the movie. Because what's his name? I'm gonna look it up now because
was it Aaron? Who was in that movie? Was it Aaron Eckhart?
No. What was his name? Michael Fassbender. He was
the
main.
That's right. Yeah,
he played and Jeremy Iron. I mean, it was a great cast in my opinion. But I love the game franchise. I've played it since the very first game every new game comes out, I get it. I don't even wait for reviews. I don't even care. I know I'm going to buy it. I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan. And when that movie came out, I was hyped for it. I love the film. They took a lot of the stuff that portrayed out in the first and second video games into the story, and it's just a shame that it didn't get as much love that the games do, because they was supposed to lead into up to 3 sequels. The story was supposed to continue, and it didn't. But supposedly, again, now Netflix is going to put out a TV series around the franchise. So to Austin's point, I hope Netflix doesn't do the same with Assassin's Creed and not follow any of the lore and just kind of does their own thing that has really, they're just using the name Assassin's Creed and has nothing to do with the source material we know it to be with the video games and the movie. But the only movie they done that was the closest I've seen where a video game turned into a film was pretty close.
Yeah.
Do you ever just see things that just make you scratch your head? I mean, like, for example, the Death of Superman storyline, right? I don't know what the problem is all of a sudden with that story. The comic is something that it obviously it had a huge impact on people. Okay, back in the 90s. It had a huge impact on me. It got me into actually collecting comic books and starting down that route of actually reading those stories and learning who Superman actually was. Not just because up to that point, I thought that Superman consisted of what I knew from the Christopher Reeve movies and Super Friends. You know, I didn't realize that there was these adult stories that were being written and were fantastic. And then I read the Death of Superman and the way that they went about killing him, and then the way that they went about bringing him back with the Reign of the Superman. I was like, oh my gosh, can you imagine if they made a movie of this? This would be fantastic. And then the very first animated thing DC did with their animation studio was to make Doomsday, which did not resemble the comic book in any way. They had him come back at the end, but there was no Reign of the Supermen. There was no individual characters. There was just Superman came back, and he had long hair and a black suit, but the animation was weird, and like the whole thing didn't really make sense. It didn't resemble the Death of Superman storyline at all. And then they wondered for years, oh, why did that not get received so well?
And growing up, those were my only two references for Superman. Superman 78, Christopher Reeves, and the Reign of Superman comic storyline. When I was a kid, those were my only two references. And again, if anyone follows me on social media or have seen me in other panels, that's a drum I have been beat. I think I've even said it on this show. I would love to see DC stop giving me the same rinse and repeat Superman story, whether it's an origin story or, hey, here's Superman. Give me the Reign of Superman story. You could tell that story over 3 to 4 films if you gave each one of the main Supermen that were portrayed, that being the clone, the Superboy, actual Superman, the cyborg Superman, Steel. Give them each their story, and then bring them all together in one final film where it just plays out. I think that would be a great live action story to tell from a great comic story that no one seems to want to touch for some reason.
Well, and then they spend years and years and years just sitting on it. And then when they did say, okay, we're going to do the Death of Superman, and then we're going to do Reign of the Superman. And I was like, awesome. And then it just makes me scratch my head because I went to go watch that, and the Death of Superman was all right. But then they make all these weird choices in it. It's like he's wearing the new 52 suit instead of wearing a suit that makes sense, like for the story. And I get it, because they were ending, they were in the middle of the animated version of the new 52 or whatever. But it's like that suit made no sense with that. The artwork was. I don't like that boxy artwork. It makes me feel uncomfortable because it like the facial features don't look right, and it just and even the Death of Superman one, the Doomsday one, the first one that came out, like remember how he had like those weird lines in his face, and it was like it's like what the heck is this?
But I also think that was just the style for.
I know, but it's like weird though. But it's like weird because like it's like they couldn't just put something out that. I wish Dan Jurgens, man, could just like draw and pencil like the whole freaking cartoon, because those people, like, they captured the feeling of Superman, the look of Superman. And I'm sorry, but even the Reign of Superman thing that came afterwards, just it was all right. It was okay. It wasn't great though.
I think with those stories and with some of there are certain stories right in the lore of comic books that I think they're so big, they were so impactful. They like Dark Knight Returns, it's epic. Death of Superman, it's epic. And for me, none of the movies, the animated movies at least, conveyed that epicness of the story, at least to me. I always thought that epicness would be great and would be conveyed greatly through live action, especially like seeing Zack Snyder's like action, of how he handled Superman's action and all that. Like, I think Snyder would have done a great.
Austin, did you see Justice League Dark Apocalypse War?
No.
That is almost Zack Snyder's Justice League 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude, it's like it's so good. It is the best animated movie that DC has done, in my opinion.
Okay.
It is so good. I mean, they go to Apocalypse. It's the Justice League. Yeah, Angie's seen it. She goes, "That was so fire." It was fire. I mean, it was so good.
I'll have to check
And
that one out.
yeah, I mean, because I remember watching it and thinking to myself, man, like if they're able to do this in animation, because they actually do a really good job with the animation and the story and everything. And I thought to myself, man, this is like if they could do this with this, it's because it deals with a lot of the same kind of story plot points like a Justice League 2 would from Zach, being on Apocalypse with Darkseid and the characters that are involved and everything. But yeah, I remember I've thought that for a long time, man.
I mean, I would love to see the Eradicator. The last time, I would love to see a live action R-rated version of that character. That would
yes.
be epic. And I know that character. And if for anyone who's wondering, I'm talking about the Eradicator from the Superman story I previously mentioned, because I know there's an Eradicator from a Flash story that played out. I know there's two others from the late 2000s, like the early 20 teens, like 2013, 2017. I'm talking about the one from the 80s, 90s Superman story that we were just talking about.
Absolutely.
Anyways.
Yeah, I'm with you, Nerd Coast Nostra. I've always wanted to see that story adapted and done well.
But to be clear, I'm not saying I'm not going to give James Gunn's Superman a chance. I'm not saying that I'm protesting it. I'm just saying I would love to, if I had to pick a story or a version of this character I want to see, I would like to see that in live action. When I think about what's in the comics and what I grew up with and what I would love to see live action, that's something I'd want to see.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah, and too, like, they are getting to that point with Superman where, okay, we need to start exploring some other things. Like, I've always said, like, the Superman stories that I liked a lot, were when he would go off world to war world,
yeah,
like that, and so I was like, they need to have, like somebody, like, whether you like him or not, somebody like this, he has to interact with other aliens, go to other planets. Like, I'd like to start seeing him do stuff like that in the movies.
Yeah, there's so many great stories out there. I don't know why everyone's just so
obsessed with him,
so scared to touch all these stories in the comics and
or any villains. Even villains, for God's sake.
I love Lex Luthor. Don't get me wrong. Gene Hackman played it great for that film, right? Jesse played it great for but we've seen the Luthor character across film, TV, animated. He has other villains fighting against him besides Luthor.
How have we gone this many decades without getting Brainiac yet?
Right, but even
for God's sake, it's the most current and relevant one. I mean, we live in a modern society with technology and everything else. You're going to tell me that you can't write a story utilizing Brainiac in decades?
Is one that I've always wanted to see in live action. I think
who?
Metallo.
Oh, Metallo. Okay.
But yeah, no, and even with Lex, right? The thing is that there's not much to do. Like, there is things to do with these characters. It's just they focus so much on one specific iteration of it. Like with Lex, I'm waiting to see. Hopefully, with this one, like, I want to see him in the suit. I want to see him fight Superman. I want to see a Lex that contends with Superman. And it's fighting and doing all that. But like, there's still things to do with these characters. It's just for some reason, like you said, they're afraid to touch.
Superman has such a great eclectic group of villains. Everything from serious and like demonic all the way up to foo-foo like, and with Mr. Mixel-Pitalik and like the silliness and everything else. I mean, there's characters from Satanis and Silver Banshee, that are these very evil hell-based even characters, and I mean, then but then you have, the silliness too. But people don't know that he has that kind of rogues gallery. Everybody always talks about Batman's rogues gallery, and yeah, Batman has an amazing rogues gallery, but that's because it's been cultivated, and we see those characters and they're brought up in stories and stuff. Like, people don't even know who Superman's villains are. Like, they don't even know the
They know it to be Lex Luthor and General Zod. That's what they know.
Right.
And they've known that for 40, 50 years.
And
That's what they know.
And Doomsday.
And
Yeah,
Doomsday.
Doomsday. Because we keep, for some reason, like, we can't do a decent, Death of Superman thing, but we can keep throwing Doomsday into the mix, just for the fun of it, apparently. I mean, the Smallville Doomsday, I'm sorry, the Smallville Doomsday is like the most annoying one of all, because like, he's freaking Clark Kent, and you got Clark Kent fighting a guy that turns into Doomsday, like the Incredible Hulk turns into the Hulk. He gets mad and he turns into Doomsday, and he blacks out, and he doesn't know it because he's been Doomsday this whole time. The only saving thing about that thing with Smallville is the fact that Clark, oh, I'm sorry, Angie, but it's like, it's way into the show. I'm sorry. And the show's been out for, forever. But I apologize if you haven't seen it. But the thing is that the only saving grace is that they literally let him basically leave Doomsday the way that we would see him that we saw him in the comics, buried, but not necessarily with the comic storyline, but he is buried in the ground, and and they do that. I thought, well, at least they did that, so I guess one day when he's Superman, he can fight him, but
well, outside of Brainiac, so many people, when Henry was Superman, they wanted to see Henry also play Bizarro, like play both roles. Kind of what they did with Superman and Lois, right?
Yeah,
he played both roles. They wanted to see that live action, and the executives were like, "Oh no, you can't do that. What will the fans do, or will they
Superman
even know?"
Superman 3 was supposed to be a billionaire Lex Luthor, and it was supposed to be Brainiac, but it got
talking about the original Superman 3.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah, that
Richard
just turned
Pryor.
out to be a comedy.
Right. But that's the weird thing, right? Is you go from literally that was supposed to be Brainiac. You have a supercomputer that's supposed to be able to do anything. That was the point. It was supposed to be Brainiac. And like, for some reason, they're just like, no, we're not going to make it Brainiac. And then they totally change, the billionaire Lex Luthor character to just being some unnamed guy, Webster, whatever his name was. And it's like, what are we doing here? It goes back to the point that we've been making, right? Like, again, it's like, it's like there's too many people making these decisions, and they're trying to be too cool and too relevant and try to make it to something that it's not, when all you got to do is like read some comics, watch some old shows, get some inspiration, and go, oh man, Superman's got a really great rogues gallery if we just actually took the time to learn what they are and write those stories.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I agree. There were some things I did like about Superman 3, but overall, it's not one I revisit often.
I love Superman 3.
I liked seeing Christopher Reeve start as he was turning to more of an evil Superman that we got to see. But but I'm sure we got to wrap things up for you.
Yep,
though.
I got to get going. But I love y'all. And look at the. Wait a second. Oh, now she's leaving. Hold on a second. I'm literally getting off right now. She's leaving me behind.
We can confirm that.
Yeah, well, but I mean, like, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're still live. I mean, when a beautiful girl walks up and she's like, "Bye," I'll be like, "I'm getting off here. Trust me." Okay. All right. Well, hey, thank you guys for being here. Great discussion. A lot that will probably come up in discussion over the next few weeks, especially with the Diddy thing and everything. But hey, just remember, don't anybody tell you that your fandom doesn't matter. Don't tell anybody that their fandom doesn't matter, but seek to have good conversations. Treat everybody with respect. You know what? Wait until you get all the information before you go slandering people. And you know what? Just be good to each other. And if you do that, there'll always be a place for you and you in the Poindexter Lounge. Till next time, stay nerdy.